Chaim Ozer has a tshuva where he discusses a practice in Europe where religious Jews who are very careful about kashrus would drink regular brandy, non-Jewish brandy. Brandy, is made from wine. Made from wine, so it's tam yenam. So how can they drink wine or cognac? They would drink cognac or brandy. So he says they rely on the opinion, this opinion that Zeh B'Alma is mutter by the Isurim D'Rabbanan. That since it's evaporated, it turns into gas, even though it's converted back, when you cool it off, converted back into water. So there is an opinion that any tray for food that evaporates, and then you make it back into a liquid food is mutter. So even though we don't accept that with respect to chametz, we don't drink chametz dika shnapz on Pesach, but there were those who were mekel on stam yenam. Stam yenam is only nisa d'Rabbanan, so he said he used to be mekel on a nisa d'Rabbanan. But he says it's not really right to be mekel. Even on dinim d'Rabbanan, it's not right to be mekel. But that's what some poskim say. We respect the possessing the shnapz on Pesach by Yeruz and Isa Deraisis, and then we say we don't rely on the heter of Zeh B'Yam. Respect the chametz over all about Pesach. Some poskim say maybe there's room to be mekel. It's a big shas hadchak, let's say a liquor shop that got to sell all of the schnapps. It's going to lose hundreds of thousands of dollars. So some of the poskim say there's room to be mekel.
Even a bigger hefset in terms of the distributors, if the distributors didn't sell.
So there are those who are making.
Rabbi Belsky wants to be.
Historically, there's a reason why more people are makel by schnapps than by anything else, is because originally the ones who sold schnapps were the Jewish innkeepers throughout Europe. There were hundreds and hundreds of innkeepers, and the main stock and trade was schnapps, and therefore they couldn't sell it. Had huge amounts, barrels of schnapps, and they had to use it all year long for the clientele, which was mostly non-Jewish. And because of that, the first things that were sold were the whiskeys held by the Jewish innkeepers. So that's why they were treated like grocers. They just find it impossible to. But then again, if a person has 100 bottles of schnapps, a private housekeeper who fancies himself a connoisseur and gets all kinds of expensive liquors, he still doesn't become an innkeeper. But these things have a tendency to grow and grow and grow. So I said before, the transition of having 3 ways of preventing the Isser of Tashmisu, Bittul, Bedika, and Mechira. And it's so ingrained today that people sort of, they sell the Blias and the Kelim, or Chametz and Nidbak B'Kelim. In my opinion, it throws a serious question on the entire Mechira, because it's like saying Kiniyat V'Chamor. You can't have a Mechira which is part fictional, real fictional, not legal fiction, but a Mechira which is just fictional. There's no way you can sell Blias and Kelim. It doesn't exist such a kind of Mechira. And I'll tell you, on a personal note, I've never sold chametz in my house, but when I had a few items which I felt I just couldn't get rid of, on occasion of these things, I put it in a box and carried it to a Goyish neighbor and opened it up and showed him what he has, a few small items, and he would pay me money for it, $20 or whatever, and there it is, and I intend to do the same thing Be'ez Hashem this year. It's just the thing that bothered me most about the Mechiras Chametz is the sort of inclusion of Mechira as being a third leg to the Gedik and Bittul, and a method of getting rid of Tashbisu, which it never was intended to become.
Rabbi Belsky, you want to also comment about stocks, shares in chametz companies, whether they need to be sold?
Well, the Roiv of the world in Poiskim followed Moshe's Psak and many Poiskim before him that held that when a person just owns a share of stock in a publicly held company, so he doesn't own the assets of the company. It's a financial investment, just a way to make money, but there's no ownership of assets, and therefore you don't own the chametz. The only people who are considered owners of the property of the company, the assets, are are the ones who have, in addition to ownership of stock, they wield an influence in the company, either because they sit on the board of directors and are officers who could make decisions or influence decisions in the company, or because they own so much stock that whatever they say will be considered binding on the other members because everybody's fearful of their influence since they own 40-50% of the company. But Moshe was once asked about someone who owns 30% of the company. He says, yeah, that makes a person into an owner. They're considered to be, even though a stock is a share in a legal entity which doesn't exist. It's an invention. A company, a corporation, that's a body that is just a theoretical body. The corporation owns the assets, but the owner of the stock doesn't own the assets, he owns the share of the corporation.